I don't think I can pull that off on so many levels.
Welcome, viewers, to the League of Books, our first webcast. Stop laughing at me, Ben.
Nope, I'm laughing.
We are discussing an entire trilogy of books this time, the Assassin's Apprentice trilogy. I think it's actually called something else, by Robin Hobb. The Assassin's Apprentice,
The
Royal
Farseer
Assassin,
trilogy.
the Farseer trilogy, and Assassin's Quest. Robin Hobb is the pen name. What is her real name?
Yeah. you led into this, not me.
I know.
This is your fault.
Yeah.
See what you've done now. Wow. Margaret Astrid Lindholm Ogden.
That's a lot of names.
That is a lot of names.
Maggie.
In like an impressive fashion. Yeah. Who also lives in Tacoma, by the way.
Oh, yeah. I think I read that.
Out of all the
I guess
cities that you
Washington
could
is good.
pick in Washington, though. Let's be honest. Tacoma?
Yeah. Disappointed.
It's got nicer, but still. Still.
All right. So, Maggie wrote us some books.
Yep. Us specifically.
Just for us.
It was really nice of her.
Sweet. Sweet lady.
So what's going to be hard for us is we get on too many tangents.
I know. It's going to be like a 7-hour video just because, like, we'll talk about everything but the book and then the book.
Yeah. Pretty much.
So, all right. Assassin's Apprentice. I was trying to remember where it ends. That's my problem. I remember where it begins.
Well, it ends like right after because he's still up in the mountain village after he gets poisoned.
Oh, right.
Because he
Okay.
doesn't return until the beginning of the second book.
Yeah. And Burrich stays with him. And that's it, right? It's just Burrich and him, and they wait out like a couple of months or a few months to like recover.
Because they have like the most broken father-son relationship.
So messed
Ever.
up. So bad. He's like, I hate you. I never want anything to do with you. I love you. I'll take care of you.
They just don't know.
And they kind of imply right at the end of this one that like Burrich hits his head, and so he forgets that Fitz is like using the wit.
Yeah. Well, and then he's an assassin.
Right. He just forgets all of it.
Yeah, it's like left very open-ended. Then it kind of sounds like he did remember.
Yeah.
Or he like remembered at some point down the line.
So we start with a tiny 6-year-old boy being left in a keep with a doorman by his grandfather and sad teenage mother who doesn't want to leave him but doesn't put up a huge fight. I don't really think she's allowed to, seeing as how she had a prince's bastard without getting any sort of marriage proposal. But it's
authorization.
Okay, because they kind of say that she's a mountain woman, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I thought the mountain people like didn't have the same like stigmas. Unlike bastards, like
bastards.
Right, like don't they? I'm trying to remember if they ever outright say it, but like Ketrican.
This is gonna be fun.
I know. I haven't said all of their names out loud.
It's okay. I'll say them confidently, but very wrong.
That's what I did. It was Hermione for like ever, not Hermione.
I forgot about
very
that.
Very proud of that one.
That's impressive.
Okay, so but I felt like they were a much more like peaceful, though like hard, because they like live in the mountains and it's freezing all the time or whatever. But they're like a more peaceful sort of people, because it's like she's the sacrifice and they live in like this socialist sort of society where everybody's like just has what they need and gives what they want to people, and there's like all these like communal gardens and communal fountains and places like you just bring your tent and you set it up next to the palace and you live there whenever you want to. And then like her grandpa's like, no, we don't want this kid, take him.
He was not a very pretty baby.
Apparently not. Even though they talk about how like chivalry was very good looking, I think.
But they never like really discuss too much about like, because we never really find out what happened. Really,
Right. I like that still drives me a little nuts. The fact that like we don't know anything about chivalry like at all. We don't learn anything about him really, and then we know nothing. Not
yeah.
even like her name about the mountain woman who's his mom.
Because that part like seemed like there just seems like there's a secret still attached to that somehow. Because I mean, by all accounts, like he lived up pretty well to like his name. Because that's the other thing in this book, they do like that cool naming
Right. Which is
scheme where they're
so
supposed to live up to their qualities.
weird and fantastic. I'm just gonna name my children things like that.
And then it just like completely backfires.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what's gonna happen. I'm gonna love every second. Um, but like by all accounts, like he lived up to his name, and so it just seems like, the limited knowledge we have of him, it seems out of character. And so like, what actually drove him to that? Like what
Right. I mean,
what
like
happened?
we do get a tiny bit of it with like Burrich saying that chivalry was like wanted him around because he was the same age and like didn't want to have to live up to stuff with him or whatever. But at the same time, I think Burrich says that he doesn't know when chivalry got the time to like woo some mountain woman, and she
Woo.
was young too, so it's not like.
Well, and it seems by like all accounts too that chivalry like really loved patience.
Yeah, enough to like
So,
defy his father and like abdicate the
like,
throne because of this.
yeah, like was it something where like that super? It's unfortunately the like second least awkward triangle in the book. Like, did something happen where like chivalry found out about like Birch and patience, and then like there's some sort of like retaliatory? I'm going to have a baby.
Isn't
See
there
how
like
you feel now.
so chivalry has Fitz and then like immediately weds Patience, right? Because like by the time he's 6.
Oh, is that the?
So
Yeah, so it would have happened just before.
right, so it's like I'm not really sure. I always kept like thinking we'd learn more about that, or kept like we'd
Nope.
know something.
It's probably all in the next books.
Yeah, like in the next trilogy, the Fools
Yeah.
one.
It's just a list of all the things that we weren't told the first time around.
Like a whole history of everything.
Yeah. Item 241.
But yeah, so it's really difficult to sort of know anything more about like why Fitz came to be or like what happened, but he gets there and then he gets named but doesn't know it by Verity. Verity like doesn't tell him that he named him. And then he like by all accounts, I mean, he really had a pretty easy life like growing up. I mean, to go from nothing and like have no one really taking care of you, and then like he goes to the castle and they take care of him and he gets to like live. And what I really liked is like as a small child when he would go to the town with Nosy, and I think we kind of talked about this, but she doesn't really say it like it's weird, like the fact that he can like smell with the dog's nose or like hear what the dog is hearing. It just kind of happens, and then
it's just
like
presented.
later we find out that it's weird or whatever, but like it's just kind of like, oh, of course he can.
Yeah, like they presented it like, and it kind of comes like full circle, I guess, when he comes up to Forge that first time and like realizes like how it feels with the Forged ones where he can't like sense them, and like you get like a full sense of just like how and how she's like really she did a good job of like building up it into this thing that he accepts as being completely normal, and so that we as the readers never really get a full sense of what it is until like he realizes like just how important it is to his everyday like life. He doesn't realize that he's different, or like even how big of an effect it is.
Right, yeah, like he doesn't realize that he has any sort of extended abilities or any sort of sixth sense sort of thing where he can feel people being alive until he can't. So we don't know that he can do that, like, as a power or whatever you want to call it, until we find out that there are people that he can't feel.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was really cool because it wasn't like it's like it's first person in a very 100% sort of way, like unless he realizes it's weird, even though it was like a third person.
Yeah,
like unless he realizes it's weird, we don't. So if it was totally normal to him, we assume it's really normal.
Yeah.
Like I kind of was thinking in the beginning that bonding to an animal was like a good thing. Like everybody kind of finds their animal or something. When they started making it a little bit more obvious that he was really hearing with the dog's ears or smelling like what the dog could smell, I was like, oh, this is going to be like a normal phase of his development, or like it's a royal thing or something.
Super
and then it was like, no, this is bad. Don't do that.
Yeah. And then they supposedly kill Nosy.
And then I totally thought Nosy was dead.
Yeah. Just mildly traumatic event, like 50 pages into the book.
I know. You're like, what's wrong with you, Burrich? But I think that I guessed pretty much right then that Burrich had it. I mean, they kind of hint at it, and then they make it obvious like later in the books, but that Burrich has the wit, and that's like why he's so intense about it, and like why he can tell that Fitz is bonding to like these animals.
Yeah, and he's like actively using it because like they hint several times that like Burrich senses like when he's doing it.
Yeah, so I mean, like,
questions at some point. Like, how can he tell?
Why does he know?
I wonder. What could it be?
I'm trying to think of what else. And then, so I mean, like, so he gets taken in and gets raised with Burrich, and then it's sort of Regal's fault that he gets noticed. Regal like is really mean to him, and then the King Shrewd is like, oh hey, maybe I have a use for you. Do you want to be a king's man?
And kill people.
And murder people because I said so.
Yay!
Yay! Here's this pin.
And we went out and had adventures.
The end.
So who's like your favorite, maybe not just like favorite character, but who you identified with the most? I think I know who yours probably is, but like who like over the course of the trilogy did you really like enjoy like their entire journey, I guess?
Okay, well, there are two characters that are probably my favorite. One of them we don't really get into, and well, actually both of them we don't really get into until the later novels, but Ketrican is obviously like one of my favorite characters because she's just so like pure isn't exactly the word I mean, but like everything she does, there's no like treachery behind it. There's no like reason that she's doing it except that she feels like she needs to do it. Whereas most of the books are about like this intrigue and how Fitz has to like think about what he's saying so that it affects this person, and they have to be like saying this to say this person, and then like he has to manipulate this person so that she'll like, you know, like, so it's a whole lot of that. And then Ketrican comes in and she does everything straightforward.
Yeah.
Like, this is what she says, and this is what she means, and she does this because, like, she wants to make everybody feel better, and, like, she knows that it's the right thing to do, not necessarily because it makes her a great queen, but then all of that does, like, make her a great queen. She does get kind of mean later in the books, but it's understandable.
Well, she's seen some shit.
She goes through a little bit of stuff. Tiny bit. And then my other favorite character is the Fool, which is really funny because the Fool absolutely is the opposite of Ketrican. Like, doesn't say anything that they mean, like, straightforward. Everything is, like, twisted and weird and whatever. But then we, like, later find out that he They never quite clear that up. I kind of love that and kind of hate that.
Yeah, I've got like several highlighted, but like periods in that where they were like trying to figure it out, I guess. Because I really did love that part. I thought the Fool was like, in the third book, was my favorite.
Oh yeah, in the third book, definitely the Fool.
That character like really
in the second
in the third book.
In the second book, it would be Ketrican, but in the third book, it's definitely the Fool. Like the Fool is, you get like a real sense of actual emotion and stuff, whereas the Fool is kind of like a player in the game in the second one, like, oh, this is happening, or you should do this. And then in the third one, it's like, oh, I'm so glad you're not dead. I actually care. Even though you were dead.
And she is fantastic.
So, Ben, who's your favorite?
Actually, that's hard. I really like the Fool again. Like in the third book, I think the Fool is definitely like my favorite character, just because like I think is the third book's just when she seems to like get that character and like start to really explore what she can like write in that, and I really enjoyed what they did in the third book. But I really like Burrich, not because like he's necessarily like because he's obviously not the nicest character or like the most well behaved or courteous or really anything character, but like I mean, so much of like some of the suffering like Ketrican goes through and like some of the other characters go through, he's already gone through. Like he's already lost like the two most important people in his life, like before the book even starts, and then gets dropped with this 6-year-old kid, like right in between like all of this stuff happening to him. And so like I think there's a lot of like negative characters that I think are brought into the books that like Burge almost shares qualities with them, but it's almost like he can just manage to like keep control of some of these negative sides of his character. Like he's exerting so much control to make sure he doesn't fall into like one of these sorts of things, and like I think it's just an interesting character. I didn't so much like how the whole thing ended up because it was awkward.
Yeah, it felt really, really weird, and I don't know that I agree with the fact that he was like in love with the person that Chivalry ended up with, and then Chivalry's son, he ends up like marrying his wife.
Like, it's so, and like I can't like, because she obviously had to have been going for something along those lines where it's coming out, all the way around, and like that story like completes, but it's in the most awkward way. Like that's such a weird way to resolve that.
Right, okay, so let's assume, this is where I was trying to do the math the other day, so let's assume, like, Chivalry is, what, like, 20 when he has Fitz?
Yeah.
Maybe, like, 18, but I'm thinking, like, by the...
No, it kind of sounded like he'd already, like, done some things.
Right, like he won some battles or diplomatic stuff, I guess, because there wasn't really war then, but like he had won some like diplomatic battles, and then he like when he's visiting the mountains, he has a tryst with some lady, and so he's like 20-ish, and I think that's probably younger than he is. But okay, so he's like 20, so Burrich is supposed to be the same age. So Burrich. Which is weird because, like, so he would have been, like, 26 when he started taking care of Fitz. And they always kind of write him as, like, this gruff, older character, whereas, like, we're almost 26, or you're 26. But I wouldn't call you, like, a gruff, old, like, man who's already won weird battles and, like, scarred up. But
I've got a rocking chair, like, right behind me. Right after this, I'm just going to yell at kids to get off the lawn.
Better.
It's going to be fantastic.
So we kind of already write him as old, but I think like he's probably around 26 or so when he starts taking care of Fitz. So that's so weird to me because if Fitz starts, like Fitz is like what, 16, 17 when he starts sleeping with Molly?
I think so. Well, I think they like explicitly say I think she's 2 years older than he is.
Right. Okay. So
Burrich is still 18 years older than she is.
So Burrich is at least 18 years older than she is, and he's like got this like gruff old man demeanor since he was like 25.
And like I don't know, it still bothers me too, like even beyond like the awkward level, like such a big deal is made of like her father and like the fact that he was an alcoholic and
Oh
like
yeah.
again like Birch like reins that side in a bit better than her father obviously did, but like it seems like a deal breaker. I
I
feel like
agree.
if she really like if she goes through those experiences and is like as dead set against alcoholism, I feel like that would just be such a rift. It's just a bit.
I'm gonna marry this man who kind of has a brandy drinking problem.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I hated my
I
father because he was an alcoholic.
I don't I like never really liked Molly. Like
Mm,
there wasn't really any point in the story where I was like really rooting for her, which is kind of
yeah.
terrible. But I mean like once she had the baby, I was like obviously kind of rooting for that whole thing like to happen.
That whole baby thing.
Like Fitz and Nettle and Molly to
Right.
sort of work out before it started
But you
becoming really
knew.
obvious that they
You're
were
like,
not going to do that.
definitely not going to happen.
Um, but I just kind of, I just didn't like her. Like, they
Yeah.
kind of call her headstrong, but she's less headstrong and more just like impulsive.
Hmm.
And she doesn't, I don't know, she was just not either like 3D enough for me or like I just didn't like the choices that she made for the most part. Because she would be
Yeah.
like, no, don't talk to me. Oh, yes, let's sleep together. He was also kind of stalkery and weird
He
during
was
that whole thing. He's like,
very stalkery and
let
weird.
me climb down the wall and open your window. That
Yeah.
makes sense.
Totally
Because
romantic.
you put a better bolt on your door. Let
Totally
me get in
romantic.
another way.
I'm telling you.
So I kind of hated that whole thing.
Hmm.
And then I was really afraid she was going to do a thing where Fitz was really into Ketrican because of the whole like
That,
Verity's feelings in him. And I was like, oh, this is not going to be good.
which again led to awkward situations at the end of the third book.
Oh, yeah, I still don't understand quite
Like,
how the biology of that worked.
well, when a man loves a woman.
But okay, because that child then, right,
Hmm.
actually has more mountain blood than Farseer blood. If Fitz is the father, because Fitz is 50-50 and Ketrican is 100% mountain.
Hmm.
So that child is like 25% Farseer blood. If that's like the big whereas if it was Verity's child, it's like 70 or it's 50-50.
I don't understand how it could be Verity's child.
Right, but they kept I guess they were just trying to say like in spirit it was Verity's child, but I was like, I don't know, can you do some weird
That's
skilling
I don't
that's
I don't
happening here?
I don't think so. And even if you did, like I feel like that would be awkward for both parties anyway. Like if you're doing some it's just like, hey, what are you doing?
But he like comes out and he's like, I know that she's pregnant. I can feel the
He's like
biology happening.
I looked oh my god.
Oh,
Well,
oh,
like
so bad.
that part I think was done with the scaling, but like, yeah, I just think they were it was his baby because he spiritually was in Fitz's body.
It was so like when I realized what was happening, I was like, what are you doing?
And then like what was it like right after they like switch back bodies or something like that, and like Ketrican like looks at him, like
Yes,
I don't remember what it was that she does, and it's like
he like runs away to go shower, well, like bathe
yeah,
in the river because he's like, I can smell her on me, and I'm like, oh, stop,
just awkward.
stop talking about it.
And they never had a conversation ever again.
And they never spoke face to face ever again. Hence why Fitz became a weird hermit.
Yeah, like again, no.
Okay, so I was really, really mad, and I guess this is like it'll be okay because there's other books like about the Fool and Fitz, but like at the end of the third book, it was just like, and the Fool and Fitz never talked again. The end.
Yeah.
And I was like, but they were besties, like weird, maybe in love with each other, besties.
Yeah.
And I like wanted them to at least like live together or like live nearby each other and hang out
In little
sometimes.
cottages in England.
Yes, in little cottages in England.
Yeah. That
Same.
relation that relationship was fascinating. I really liked that relationship because I
Right,
like
and I
partly like I wanted them to, and like after like he found out about Molly, I was like almost happy, like hoping that that's what she was kind of like leaning toward, because like that was just such an interesting like conversation they had. I think leading up to the mountain when he like was like trying to clear it up, and he was like, "Do you like? I don't love you like that." And he's like, "Well, what do you mean you don't love me like that? Do you or do you not?" And like this awkward, like funny
like I
conversation.
can't
And I was like,
love
"This
you
makes me
like
this
a
makes me
man
so
loves a
happy."
man. What do you mean? Why not?
What do you mean?
Yeah, I was like, okay, so a first story very very slow, like or not like slow, like in terms of reading, but in terms of like the storyline, like how far it goes. It was like, oh,
Mm,
he's 6, and then he was like 12 or something, and then the second book was like 12 to 15 or 16 or whatever, and then the like last book, I just felt like opened up all of these huge possibilities and storylines, like the fool's like molting thing, where he like
oh
got darker and
yeah,
darker in coloration.
yeah.
Like I was like really like I felt like all of these storylines were like laid in place, and then
And
none of them were. It was like and wrapped up.
bye bye.
Goodbye.
Very hastily wrapped up.
Right, because I was expecting so much more because like every chapter starts with like Fitz as an well, I thought like old man, but maybe he's like
Yeah.
20. Like writing in a thing and has has a young servant boy who like brings him tea and soup or whatever. And so I was like, oh, we're gonna have like all these stories and all of these things.
I didn't like that twist either, like him taking in like the orphan boy. Like at the end, like I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's like trying too hard to like bring these again, like bringing these things like full circle, where like there are these odd signs that she's choosing to like kind of bring about at the end here to like wrap things up, but it's like
Yeah,
too
I
much.
like it would have made sense if he was like a like I thought it was like an apprentice or something, and then it turned out to be kind of like a random orphan boy that he takes care of.
Yep.
And I was like, you're not old enough to have a random orphan boy you're taking care of. You haven't finished all of your like crazy prophecy duties.
Yeah,
Catalyst.
dude.
Dude, get your act together. Get out of the house.
Stop becoming a crazy old hermit.
Yeah. Well, and they kind of give him like his shakes again and stuff,
Yeah.
which I was not a huge fan of. Like, if he
Yeah.
has to make a sacrifice, like I just want to kill him off, which I think is terrible.
Hmm.
But like to sort of leave it open and sort of not, like for more adventures, I don't know.
More adventures.
I mean, like we're talking about all the things we didn't like, but for the most part, I mean, these books were absolutely fantastic, and we
Oh
finished them
no.
so quickly, and I like
I do like.
loved them.
I don't wanna. Yeah, I wanna read the other ones in the trilogy.
Oh yeah, we're
I
gonna
just
have to
like
read
to.
those soon.
I like to nitpick.
Right, we do, and I think that that's good. Like, I think especially if we ever want to create our own like sort of stories, we need to know what we like and what we don't like about other people's. But I mean, like, I do want to say that we love these books, and we devoured them. I finished that first one in like 2 days.
Yeah, I'm pretty
Maybe
sure I'm still
less.
gonna maintain it was like a day and a half.
It was like all I did. And those other
Like
ones.
I was in the middle of like 3 books. I'm just like da da da. This is fun. Read a chapter here. Read a chapter there. Hey Misty, where are you at? Damn
Book two.
it. All right. Especially because apparently Misty thinks that all the books I pick are slow.
Nuh-uh. You picked these ones.
I know I did. That's what I'm saying.
Some sci-fi books I might be a little bit slower at. I'm excited about.
Didn't help that I wanted to like do all like old sci-fi classics.
I know. But okay, so overall, loved these books. Fabulous characters.
Yeah.
We didn't have a whole lot of female characters.
No. Oh, I did like
the ones
Starling.
The ones we did have were pretty fantastic.
Yeah.
I don't know if the Fool's female. Maybe we do have a good amount, but
depending.
I
still get the sense like I just don't think he like identifies.
Yeah, I don't.
Sex.
I kind of think that's kind of how it's gonna go, and maybe. Okay, so what I was kind of thinking is that the Fool doesn't have a sex until they finish their molting, or whatever she called it.
No, it just and they comes can maybe into being.
And then maybe like she can choose.
Oh.
Like it's like a final step thing. I mean, like maybe I'm whole on this, and I've been reading way too many weird sci-fi novels or something. But I was like, maybe she gets to choose their sex. But because he never, I mean, like they don't really ever self-identify as.
That's one of those things where you wanna like double check to see if you're gonna have a do-over after you make the decision or not. You're like, no, wait
a second.
I don't know what this is, but it's doing weird things. I want to switch out for the other one.
Change my mind. So I really hope that we kind of get something with that, but I don't know. We'll see. We're gonna have to read the Fool and the Fitz trilogy to kind of see where that goes. But after Starling. So like Starling was pretty interesting in her own right. She had a really damaged past.
God, yeah.
It was
slightly.
Like, oh, that's terrible. Yeah. But it makes you understand the sort of choices that she made, like
and
to sort of give up any sort of stable home life and go on these quests to find something that set her apart so that she could be safe for the rest of her life. And then, obviously, we talked about Kettricken, who was fantastic. We had Queen Desire, but we didn't get, like, anything from her before she died.
Yeah.
She was just... I do kind of like, when women are villains as well, too. So we kind of got her, and she was the villain, and then we had Kettricken, who was, like, the noble, noble of heart, not, like, born into royalty, but, like, noble sort of, white knight thing. And then we had Starling, who was... I know, I'm just gonna keep using the wrong words. And then Starling, who was interesting, and at least was very three-dimensional. And then, and then I said earlier that I don't really love Molly. Not my favorite character.
No.
And then, who else? Oh, we had
Patience.
Patience. Like by the third book, we had a lot more women, and they were really interesting and really cool. The first two, not so much.
No.
Because in the third one we had, oh gosh, why can I not remember her name? The old woman who joins the caravan.
Oh, Kettle?
Kettle.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So Kettle, it was really cool and sort of which actually kind of drove me nuts that she, poured herself into the dragon, which I completely understand. It was like a redemption thing, and it was like a big thing. But they talk in all the books about how there's nobody left to teach anybody how to skill. And then we take the one person who could have taught people how to skill, and we poured her into a dragon.
I thought I had something about that, where they were talking about that, about how then it just was forgotten.
Yes, they do at the end, right? And that's why Fitz says, like, despite the fact that he can't skill, he's, like, writing down everything he knows because, like, there is nothing.
Yeah. Damn it. I could have sworn I made a note of that somewhere.
Just look at our Kindles.
I know, I'm gonna find this. Yeah, he just like, it's actually in the second book in the prologue, that's why I didn't.
Oh.
He talks a bit about like how it's forbidden to write down like specific knowledge of the magics. It's like, you know, like the wood fell out of use, and then essentially everyone forgot how to skill, and so then it was forbidden to talk about that too. It became basically like the wit did. Yeah, and this was like that whole like beginning of the chapter where it's like old Fitz looking back and like writing about shit.
Right. Okay. But yeah, that like kind of drove me crazy. I was like, here's the person who could actually teach everybody how to skill.
And gone.
And gone.
Bye.
Even though she's like 150 years old.
Super old.
And then, so like, yeah, in the third book, we get a lot of really awesome female characters. And then Patience, I mean, Patience thinks that like knows that her husband is dead, and then thinks that like the only tie she had left, her husband's like son, is dead, and like was witted.
Son.
Yeah, and then like Burrich is gone, and she has like she has like every reason almost to just give up and let what happens, you know. She's gone through so much. Instead, she like saves the like coastal duchies from ruin, and like wins the hearts of all of these like Queen's Guard, and I mean, like, we don't really get enough of that.
Yeah.
I kind of loved it.
You would.
And then, okay, so also something that was weird to me, Chade in the third book, like, comes out of hiding, and it's kind of awesome, and he gets to do all these things. But so he was Shrewd's older brother.
Right.
And so he's got to be like 60s at least. Something like that.
Pretty old.
And then they just start talking about how he's like super fit and beds a lot of ladies.
Because who doesn't at 60 something?
Well, I just was like, what is happening? Because they were like, he's a doddering old man, and like he has the shakes, and
that's what happens to all doddering old men.
And then it was like, oh, Shrew died. He's fantastic. He's super fit. He's muscly. He beds lots of ladies. I was like, what?
And that is now happening.
That is now happening.
It's like they've kept me cooped up in this castle for like all of my life.
Screw you guys.
He was trapped in the castle for like all of his life, and now he's just like, I'm gonna do all these things. I've never even seen a lady. I just had my little room.
Tiny room with my ferret.
Yep.
And now, all the ladies.
But now ladies.
Which I was like, okay, we're going there now. All right. You go, Chade, I guess.
Yeah.
And then,
super awesome.
Gosh, there was so much that happened in the third book.
Also, I have to get going.
Yeah, that's probably true. I keep like looking at the time, and I'm like, I should say something, and then I'm like, wait a second, let me think about these more things. But all right.
We've officially already gone over time.
We have officially gone over time.
Yes, we're awesome.
All right, goodbye, Leaguers. This will probably not be live.
Okay.